Hello and welcome to a quick Notability tutorial with Ms. Oudiz. Before we get started, I just wanted to recommend using a stylus with your iPad. It makes using Notability a lot easier and just a lot of other functions on your iPad as well. A stylus that I like, the one that I use, I got on Amazon. It's $15. What I like is that it has the option for the fine tip stylus, which is really helpful when writing on Notability. So that's just a tip that I recommend, not necessary. All right, so into Notability. The first thing to do would be to create folders in order to organize your notes on Notability. I don't actually use this function so much for myself because I'm not storing documents on Notability for myself. I use Google Drive for that. But my students are storing their documents. And so what I need to do is model that organizational structure for them. In fact, what I have them do is set it up in class with me so that I know that they have those folders already there so that as they're creating new notes, they can be filing them into their folders and not coming up with a giant jumble of notes from every different class. When I'm having them create their folders, I want them to mimic the folders that I have set up on their Schoology course page. So if I go into Schoology, here's, for example, the folders for English 1. I would want them to set up the same folders for in their Notability. So let's go here. So go to the plus at the top. Now you would think that to create a folder for all of English 1, you would go to create subject, but actually you need to go to create divider. That's where they would create their courses because then the subjects will be folders within the dividers. So create a divider and that'll be English 1. All right, now to create folders within English 1, I would go to create subject. And here I want them to have the same folders that I have, introductory materials. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Then I want them to create a folder for literature. And it's coming up with errors because I created these previously already. All right, so now I've got 2 folders within my English 1 folder. So my students can be organizing not just within the English 1 folder versus their math folder and their history folder, but within English, they've got multiple folders based on what we're working on. You could do this for different units that you're working on. Now I can also move the folders around. If I go to Edit, I can drag using the 3 lines on the right-hand side. I want to put this presentation rubric subject into my English 1 folder, so I just drag it on down there. Same way, I could also drag something out of a divider. Put that back in. And done. All right. Once I've created notes, if I want to file a note, I need to hold down the icon that has the picture and then I can pull it over. So let's try Sonnet 97. Again, hold down the icon of the picture. If you just hold down the name, it will not move around for you. So What I need to do is hold down the icon and then I can drag it into whatever folder I want it to go into. All right. And you'll notice that it wants me to put notes into a subject. I can't just put it into a divider. It has to go into a subject. More than anything else, I use Notability for providing documents to my students. I run a completely paper-free course, so the students receive everything digitally and they turn in everything digitally. And I mostly use the connection between Schoology and Notability in order to do that. So let's go back to Schoology. Let's say we're taking notes. I always provide my students with a skeleton that they can fill in for their notes. That's under literature resources. So I would provide them, I would post this document as a PDF on the course page. They would open it up in Schoology. So let's try imagery and sound devices. So this is how it looks for them once they've opened it in Schoology. Then using the arrow in the top right corner, they would open this document up in Notability and create a new note, or they could add it to a previously existing note, but usually they're creating a new note. I can choose where this note goes by clicking on Unfiled Notes and then selecting the folder that I want it to go into, so literature. All right, now I'm importing my note. And then essentially the students can take notes directly on this using text boxes for typing. And they can resize that however they'd like. They can move it around. They can handwrite. If they want to make that smaller or larger, or to move that around, they go to the scissors, cut out that area, and then you can pinch it to make it smaller or larger and move it around wherever you need it to go. If you need to write very small on a page, which can be difficult on your iPad, a really helpful tool is in the bottom right-hand corner, that magnifying glass. Now you've got this box that shows up that you can move around wherever you want the writing to go. And I can do very, very small accent marks. And that allows me to really zoom in on part of the page. Similarly, I might have my students upload other documents and use tools such as highlighting. So here we have a sample essay and I wanted my students to highlight various components in this essay to represent the different components that we were studying. The highlighter feature is up here at the top, very useful. Or we might be marking up a document together during class. So, for example, looking at a poem together and using a combination of highlighting and writing with color coding. Oops. This would be guided together in class, or the students can do this on their own. But again, all of these documents I post in Schoology and they transfer them into Notability in order to write on them. If the students have worksheets for homework, I would post them in the same way. The students can fill them out either by typing text or handwriting and then submit them to me on Schoology in the exact same way. In order to submit an assignment, the students would do that directly from Notability. they would go to the share button in the top left-hand corner. Select other apps. The default is PDF, which is what you want. Share note. Now their options will come up and they do Schoology. Submit to an assignment. Then they'll have their class list, and from there they can select the assignment in your course. And it'll upload automatically. All right, let's go back to Notability. What I use Notability for as well is for grading, especially if I'm grading on a rubric and especially for presentations. So rather than having tons of papers, loose papers for grading my students, it helps me keep everything in one place, and that way I don't have to be printing out tons of rubrics to be taking notes on. So for example, my students gave presentations at the end of last year. For each group, I would upload a presentation rubric, a new blank rubric, and then I would, mark down which students it was, and I would take notes on the rubric itself to determine how the students were performing. And then I would use those notes to tally up their scores later on. It's obviously not very legible because I was writing very quickly as they were presenting. So again, I found that really helpful, an alternative to using paper for that. I also did the same thing for a Socratic seminar. So a little bit different. I didn't actually have the rubric pulled up. I just had all of the students' names so that as they're talking, I could write notes next to each student's name as to what they were contributing. And then I went back afterward, compared it to the rubric, and gave them scores. Other than that, you can, create a blank note using the icon in the top right. Blah, 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 blah. And if you want to, or if you wanted to add a page, a blank page to a note, use the plus in the top right. Use the plus in the top right if you want to add a photo or other icons. If you want to just add an extra page to a document that you've already uploaded, you just keep scrolling down and you'll see that page divider and just write on it, and now you've got another page added on. A lot of times my students will take pictures of notes on the board, and then they will add them directly into their notes here. If, say, they weren't able to get it all down in time, or they want to capture something exact that I did, and then they'll continue with their notes. So that's pretty handy as well. They can also get clips from the web. And that's about it. Again, I use Notability to pretty much replace all paper in my class, and it's how I have a completely paper-free classroom in combination with Schoology and everything that allows. And if you have any questions about how to use Notability, I am happy to answer them, walk you through anything, anytime. Just stop by my room. Thank you.